Hi, our project is on Influenza by Emmy Duro, Brooke McMaster, Brianna Treecarton, and Patricia Worker.
The cause of influenza. The influenza virus is a causative agent for the disease, which means it's a single strand of RNA that's negative. It's also known as the orthomyxoviridae genus, and it's typically the H5N1 subtype that causes the typical influenza virus these days. It's very highly pathogenic. Avian influenza is the overlying term of the H5N1 subtype. What happens with this virus is it replicates the epithelial cells within the respiratory system, and that's how it infects you. And it usually impacts the upper respiratory, but it can also spread to the lower respiratory as well and cause the symptoms.
Characteristics of the influenza virus. There are 3 types of influenza virus, type A, B, and C. Type A is the most common in the United States and the most severe. This is the current strain in America right now, and this is capable of affecting animals. Type B is less severe than A and only found in humans. Type C is milder than both A and B and usually causes small outbreaks and only in humans. Type A is also known as alpha influenza virus. Type B is beta influenza virus, and type C is gamma influenza virus, and they are each their own genus and together are part of the orthomyxoviridae family. How is influenza acquired? The influenza virus is a highly contagious respiratory illness that spreads person to person through surfaces an infected person has touched and contact with the virus via airborne particles such as coughing and sneezing. It invades the body by entering the respiratory tract where the virus binds to the surface of the cells and releases its RNA. The viruses make copies of itself, and when the virus takes over the cell, it then replicates using the virus's information. At this point, the virus can invade the bloodstream and symptoms can start to occur as the virus continues to replicate until the body's immune system starts to fight it off. Some best practices to prevent the spread of the influenza virus are to cover your mouth when you sneeze or cough with a tissue or into your elbow, wash your hands with soap and warm water, and use an alcohol-based hand cleanser often.
The characteristics of influenza as a disease. So the characteristics of the virus itself includes a helical nucleocapsid, which is basically the covering over the cell. Rapid evolution, meaning that it divides very fast and there's a lot of variability and a lot of genetic crossing over, and there's a lot of hybrid viruses as well, meaning that no 2 viruses could be the same. There's an estimated 8 genome sequences, meaning there's 8 pieces of DNA inside the RNA strand. It is host-derived lipid bilayer envelope, which means it is embedded with glycoproteins, which is how it's very easily identified in the body, or uneasily identified because it kind of uses the host's DNA to hide. So some of the signs and symptoms of this disease is an unexpected fever or rise in body temperature that's over 38.5 degrees Celsius. A lot of people complain of limb aches, tiredness, or fatigue. There's a general faintness. Sometimes there's a dry cough from the upper respiratory. There's chills, headaches, which is from pressure and the increase in temperature, vomiting from an upset stomach just from the overall fever, running stuffy nose also from the upper respiratory infection, and sometimes a sore throat due to as well this upper respiratory inflammation. So some symptoms can be seen in as little as 1 to 4 days from exposure, and the individual itself is considered contagious after 5 to 7 days.
So according to the CDC, there are many tests that we can run to detect the influenza virus, but the 2 that are the most common is the Rapid Influenza Diagnostic Test and Rapid Molecular Assays. These 2 tend to be the quickest, although sometimes they may not be the most accurate. The one that is more common is the RIDT, and it works by detecting the antigens that simulate the immune response given by the virus. Again, this is supposed to be rapid, so typically provides a result within 10 to 15 minutes. Then we have the Rapid Molecular Assays, and this works by detecting genetic material of the virus. This one is also supposed to be rapid, so it takes about 15 to 20 minutes to provide results. Compared to the RIDT, this test tends to be more accurate. Both these tests and most of the other ones available require that your healthcare provider swipe the inside of your nose or the back of your throat. It is important to note that many other viruses or illnesses can have symptoms that mimic the influenza virus, which can make it difficult to diagnose the flu, which is why testing for it is so important. There are many treatments available for the influenza virus, all in which work to shorten the course of the virus and decrease the severity of the symptoms. It is important to remember, though, that there is no cure for the flu, as it is a virus, so a lot of these treatments do work on minimizing the symptoms and, again, shortening the course of the virus. It is pretty vital that you seek treatment if you think you have the flu, as it can cause many complications that can be pretty severe and even lead to death. So with that being said, the 4 most common treatments are Tamiflu, Relenza, Rapivab, and Xofluza. As you can see, these are all given in different forms and can have side effects. The treatment everyone is most familiar with is Tamiflu, which can be given as a pill or as a liquid suspension, but the main side effects include nausea and vomiting. To prevent the flu as a whole, the seasonal flu shot is made easily available during the flu season, which is between the months of October and March. This vaccination is given in the arm and is typically adjusted each year to protect against the 4 most common strands of the virus for that season. Since this virus is constantly adapt and change, the effectiveness of the shot can vary, which is why you may hear of some people still acquiring the flu, even if they receive the shot. However, research has shown that if you get the shot and still get the flu, the vaccination still works steadily to reduce the severity of the symptoms. It is also pretty common to hear of individuals complaining about the side effects of the shot, which can include soreness, redness, and swelling at the site of the shot. Aside from that, some may get a mild headache, a fever, nausea, muscle aches, and fatigue. It is highly recommended to get the shot every year, but it is important to speak to your healthcare provider before if you have an egg allergy, as some forms of the vaccination can be egg-based.
There has been research for new treatments of influenza, specifically Baloxavir Marboxil, that was newly approved in October of 2018 by the FDA, and it was created to work against the 2 types of influenza viruses, A and B, that affect humans. Unlike older drugs like Tamiflu that just inhibit the virus by blocking a viral enzyme known as neuraminidase, which interferes with the virus's ability to spread within the body, Baloxavir inhibits a subunit of viral polymerase, which is an enzyme that is responsible for the influenza viral replication. This different route of action means Baloxavir may be effective against strains of influenza A that are resistant to Tamiflu. Baloxavir is shown to reduce the duration of flu-like symptoms by about 1 day. It is evident that patients that took Baloxavir within 24 hours of the onset of symptoms had a greater benefit than those who started later. Baloxavir reduces the influenza virus concentration in respiratory secretions more rapidly than Tamiflu. Baloxavir is active against strains of the bird flu as well. This current research of Baloxavir has been shown to be very helpful to the treatment of influenza virus, and scientists are hopeful it will help eliminate symptoms even more rapidly. Some fun facts of influenza is that influenza is Italian for influence, and they believe that the moon, stars, and other things influence the virus. The RNA genus it comes from, Orthomyoxvidae, means straight mucus in Latin. 3 British scientists in 1933 were able to identify the human flu virus with the help of ferrets. Pigs are a huge breeding ground for these viruses because they could spread it to other pigs, chickens, and even humans.
To conclude this presentation, here are our citations that we used.